Hi, this is Perfect Start. This is Miss Tessie with Perfect Start Learning, and we have Debbie Doss, and we are the Family Child Care Providers podcast. So today we're going to be talking about the California Infrastructure Grant that has been the topic of all conversations within family child care. But first, we're going to reintroduce ourselves since this is only our second episode. Yay! So I'm super excited about that. So let me have Debbie Dawson introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Deborah Doss, and I am the director and lead teacher at American River Montessori in Folsom, California. And I'm looking forward to talking about tonight's subject about minor renovation and repair grant through the state of California.
So, but we were supposed to actually do this um like last week, and but we've been really busy. I know my program, I've had to do run enrollment for the next school year and everything because we both do preschool pre-K for our programs. But I'm actually closed during the summer. And so this coming up week is my spring break. Yay! So I am super excited about that. But that takes up a lot of time. So, Debbie, what has been up with your program?
So, with me, I've been working on taxes, and then we also had a potential exposure of COVID, so I had to handle that as well. Everything turned out okay. So, keeping our fingers crossed that it continues to stay that way.
Yeah, I think with everybody with COVID, it's a lot. We've been dealing with a lot, and I think this infrastructure grant has maybe stressed us out a little bit more with with everything. So the grant dropped around February, which normally you're like, oh, a grant dropped in February, you have time. You don't. So you only have until March 25th to get your grant applications in. So I do want to preface this with saying that we are not professionals on this at all. We are going to be holding inviting a grant writer onto the show to talk about family child care grants, but we're going to do it after this one because this one's super stressful. And for a lot of us, this is the first time we've had to write a grant. There is a reason why there is a job where all people do all day is write grants. It's a lot and it's super intensive. So, Debbie has a lot of information and she's been going through her process trying to apply for her grant. So, what have you been doing?
First of all, I was a little surprised when I participated in the meeting with CDSS about how much is available for the grant. I don't know if you know this, but in Sacramento County, family child care, there's 1,326 of us. And for child care centers, there's only 483. I was quite surprised that the centers received more funding than the family child care. So, everyone, what that tells me is that there's still this perception that because we're running our business out of our home, we don't need as many dollars. But, Tessie, I think you would agree that that's not the case, and it should be equitable, regardless of whether you're running out of a house or you're running a center.
No, and that's very true.
Right? Very true. Yes, and here's the other thing. Sacramento County Office of Education, Raising Quality Together, treats everyone, whether you're a center or a family child care, the same. And they have found that quality is important, and that should be the focus. Unfortunately, we have the stigma. But anyway, I wanted to let people know that it's really important that we break those perceptions about family child care because we are professionals as well.
Yes.
So back to the minor renovation and repairs grant program. This is due on March 25th, and it is quite extensive. There's I think there's like, gosh, how many pages? It's long, 24 pages, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
can read, oh, yeah, right? You can read about the application and what's needed. This is really important to read all the information. One of the things it says is to get a SAM number, SAM. And that's really important because that can take somewhere from 2 days to 5 days to receive that number. So you definitely want to get that. Well, it's called a DUNS number. You get it through.
And what's very interesting about the DUNS number is that they have not there is not a consistent answer on this issue. We have many times, especially during some of the trainings that have been given on trying to learn how to do the grant. They have told providers, because there's actually a part in there that says that proprietors do not need to get one, but they other people that are close to the grant have told providers that they need to get it. So this is one of those issues where erring on the side of caution might save you a little time. Again, I want to reiterate that we are not professional grant writers by any stretch, but because there is not a consensus and people are being given different answers, I would probably see about getting one instead of not getting one, just in case you do end up needing it.
Right. And that I agree with you. It's better to be safe than sorry. Here's the thing. I actually emailed CDSS to ask, do we need it? For, like, because you had told me that information. And I was like, do we really need this? Well, it said on the email, they'll get back to us when they get back
Yep.
to us. Which it could, I haven't heard from them still, Tessie, and that's been over 4 days ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say about it, but I personally, I obtained my DUNS number, and I'm going to include it just to be.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people have had to do, because they're really people have been told that people aren't getting answers back from CDS, and with the deadline looming, I think there it's it would be if you can't get a straight answer and so many people are giving you opposite answers. Just so it can be it's extra work, but I would say just to do the extra work to make sure that you get this, because they did say it is a competitive grant and everything. There are also many people that are giving out professional advice through webinars. I do know that Childcare Changemakers has has partnered up with a couple of California providers that are close to CDSS, and they're giving out webinars. So they had a second one this weekend, I do believe. So if you guys search for it, you should be able to find it. Join any of the California family childcare groups, and you should be able to find a link to the webinars. If I do find them when I post this podcast, I'll put it in the bottom. I'll link it in the bottom so you guys can see it. CDSS also has pages on their website for it. So if you have not started your infrastructure grant application due to the sheer amount of information that they're going to need, I would suggest that you get on it like right now. It is like doing a full-time job trying to get everything. One of the other things that providers have been saying they've been having a hard time with is actually getting the quotes from contractors for their jobs.
Right. And guess what? I actually talked with Lupe from the CDSS and asked her, is there any possibility of extending the due date? And she said, absolutely not. And the reason why is because she understands that there was little time to for people to get the information they need. But the problem is federal funding states that you have to spend the money within a certain period of time or the
Yeah.
money goes away. So she felt really bad about that. She's like, I wish we could. We just.
So yeah, they basically, and I'm gonna say this outright. They basically waited to the very last minute to hand out this money. So they basically waited to the very last minute to hand out this money. Now providers do not have enough time to, especially with us not being professional grant writers, we have to do all of this information by ourselves. Um, we have to now we are it feels like we're being penalized because they couldn't get all of their ducks in a row so that they could give us this money and everything.
Well, there's something else too. When they rolled out this grant, they did not include include some languages that were
Oh,
really
yes.
important, like the Russian language. The Russian community of providers they're upset because the application is not even in their language. Now, I did talk to Lupe about that, and she said in the future she will reach out to Sacramento County Office of Education Early Learning because they have addressed other languages, which includes the Russian language. So she realized they were short-sighted on that, and the reason why is because they were relying on their data, and they just thought, just certain languages were needed at that time based on their data. So they realized that was short-sighted, and they will.
So now this is also important because a lot of providers feel like they don't need um like their voices are not being heard. This is a prime example of that your voices are being heard, and when you don't tune in and speak up, sometimes it can cause miscommunications and everything. Now, one of the issues with being able to speak out is that you need to be able to have things in your language in order to speak out. That would not be so now that part would not be a failure on us not speaking up. That is on the part of the people that are giving us our regulations. If you should know the population in which you are providing licenses to. If you do not know the population in which you're providing licensing to, and you cannot accurately figure out the languages, that is a problem, and that is not a problem that we should have to solve. You provide licenses to us. That means that you have at some point asked us what our primary language is, what language that we are able to read, and you need to figure out how to address that so that we get the information for the regulations, for any updates, and that we are able to fairly apply for any monies that are supposed to come down to us. Um, so I think it's very important. This is one of those situations where we need to speak up. We also need to speak up for those who may not be able to speak up, and we need to make sure that because sometimes they're not going to pull out a chair for us at the table.
Right.
We're going to have to just, tell them to scoot down and sit down.
Yeah, no, we have to be more vocal, especially when there's this attitude about us that, oh, we don't need the same funding as a center because we're running it out of our home. That's a prime example of not really knowing who we are. And so I think it's important that we need to speak up more in order to have our voices heard. So I agree with you totally. And one of the other things that I wanted to point out in this grant application is you absolutely want to make sure that when you apply for the grant that you're applying as a provider, childcare provider. There are two possibilities, the center and the provider. If you enter the wrong application, your application will be denied. If you accidentally, submit your application under a center instead of a childcare provider. Yeah, so that's something that's really important.
You also need to make sure that what you're asking for in your grant is actually applied to the grant. So this one is a minor renovations grant.
Uh-huh.
So if you need something major done in your program, you will on the other grants is supposed to be. They said that we are supposed to be able to apply for that one also.
Mm-hmm.
But this grant is strictly for family child care providers.
Exactly.
So my big problem with that is that we're not being offered the same amount of money as the money that they are offering to centers in the major renovation grant.
Right.
And stuff. So, and I feel like even just the title of it, which is minor renovation grant for child care providers, is even acknowledges the fact that they don't understand that we have overhead just like the centers do.
Right.
And stuff. We're running this out of our home, but just like in a center, we may need a new roof to help us with our protect the children, or new fencing, or just major repairs, or we may need to re-outfit a bathroom for the children in our program in our homes, and we haven't been able to do such a thing. The these are things that are important in a center, they're important in a family child care home.
Mm-hmm.
I why wouldn't we be able to apply for bigger funds to help us with such things?
Because there's this perception that we don't need the money, because after all, we're providing it out of our home, and it's just for extra income. And that is the perception, that we're not running a business. We're not professionals. And I think we do need to address that, through some kind of media plan to really educate the public on who we are. So anyway,
I think,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think the problem is that, people think that we pocket all the money that is given to us.
Right.
Or not given, because we earn this money. All the money we earn from tuition. We're not pocketing this money. We have to buy food. We have to buy supplies, cleaning supplies. We have to buy supplies for the children, arts and crafts. We have to replace bedding, broken toys that come from wear and tear in our programs.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure that we can repair the home, redo our yards, and everything. We also, some of us have to have assistants. I have an assistant. I am paying my assistant, and I am taking care of my home and my family. This is all coming from the entire pot of what these parents are giving me. Not giving, I gotta stop saying that.
Paying you for services,
what I'm earning from these parents through the education of their children.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to stretch it so far.
Right.
So far. And they keep saying, oh, you have this many children, so you should be making this much money. Okay, well, I'm not. We live in California. Where do you think all this money's going?
Right. No, it's not a profit-making business. I've had two other businesses I've been involved in, and this one makes the least amount of profit, but I do this job because I really like it. But it's like, and my partner asked me, well, how are you going to be doing this job? It's like this, this is my profession now. And if anyone that knew how much we were making wouldn't do this job.
No.
It's like a labor of love. But honestly, a labor of love, this is like the most important job. And we're shaping the children of the future in this country. We need to show by paying us a living wage. That's important. And the sooner we do this, the better off we will be. And you'll attract more professionals into this business. And it's a really good job to help children develop. It's the most important job, and we need to show respect by a livable wage. And that's important, because I don't know about you, but I mean, the wage range for us is between $35,000 and $45,000, and that's being high, so it's
so that's a lot. And so, like, what is it? The initial start of a preschool teacher, is center or otherwise, is basically like $20,000 a year.
That's beginning.
You can't live on $20,000 a year.
Not in California.
But where are you going to live?
Right.
And stuff. I mean, the military basically still treats family child care providers as babysitters, where the wives that choose to do military family child care, their regulations are set up like we're following our husbands around, so just making pocket change.
Oh.
No.
Mm-mm.
One, I'm not making. This is a career. Many of us have degrees. Many of us do upgrade training on our own. I'm teaching workshops on diversity and early education. I am traveling to conferences. I hold leadership positions. Like, you cannot. I had a preschool contact me before because they were headhunting and they wanted to look for a preschool teacher. This is how bad this is. I do not make a ton of of money, but they still couldn't match what I make on my own.
Oh my goodness. No, you're right. I mean, if you're not working on your own, you don't get a livable wage, people. And a lot of times when people like us go get their masters, they leave this profession to go work for the state or do something else that provides a livable wage. But the thing is, the sooner we decide that this job is important enough, the sooner we'll have better quality. You know, if they go hand in hand, you want to pay people that really love this job a livable wage so they don't leave. And so, I mean, for me, I don't want to leave. I'm thinking of other revenue streams so I can stay doing what I'm doing now. You know, but this is not doing it. You know.
Yeah, it's what I'm doing. So now the grant is supposed to be able to provide people with the ability to update and improve their programs.
Right.
So I think my big issue with the grant is that it's not providing. They didn't provide us with time, and they didn't provide us with enough information beforehand.
Well, how about they can provide us with the same amount of money that they're providing to the centers? And Sacramento County Office of Education, Raising Quality Together. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. They treat the centers and the child care providers the same. We provide quality, we get the same amount of money. So why on earth is the state not doing the same? I just don't get it. Like, I mean, this is a county agency that gets it.
So the last couple of years in early education, they have been focusing on the materials that early educators use. I mean, I had Teach Tone come in, and that was one of their big focuses was they kept asking me, what materials are you using? What materials are you using? Okay. So then you want us to get the materials you consider high quality for our programs, but you don't want to provide the funding for us to get these materials.
Right. And then you have to
Let's talk about one of the things that what were you saying?
Oh no, I think you cut out. Your screen is No, what I was going to say is the sooner that
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So I think the sooner that we ask for equity, the sooner we'll get it. We have to really make that loud and clear. And with this grant, honestly, everyone, Lupe is very personable. We should just send her an email saying, hey, Lupe, why is the center getting more than the family child care provider? Ask her. We should all be bombarding her with that question because honestly, it's not something I thought about till after our meeting, after I received the numbers on how many child care providers, which are a lot more than child care centers. It's mind-boggling and frustrating for me because I've never experienced this type of inequity until this grant. I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? I mean, Sacramento County doesn't do this. They give us the same amount. Why can't the CDSS do the same? It just doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, I know I've harped on that enough. One of the things in the grant, you want to make sure that you have it. They say 2 bids, but some people are saying 3 bids. Better to have more than less, as far as I'm concerned. Other things that matter is if you are a provider, if you can earmark a certain number of spots in your program to actually offer subsidy. So you're allowed to list that in there. That doesn't, if you don't have someone on subsidy right now, doesn't mean you're out of the picture with the grant. So that's something else to consider as well. I know that Tessie was having recording issues. And so, unfortunately, I'm not sure what has happened. But right now, what we're going to do is if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Sacramento County Office of Education Early Learning. Christine, who said she can answer questions. They can't answer specific questions, and the reason why is because they don't want to be liable for giving the wrong information. Like Tessie said, we have to be careful with that. So again, that's Christine Smith. She's the director of SCOE Early Learning, SCOE's Sacramento County Office of Education Early Learning Department. She did really encourage us to send emails to ccddfacilities at dss.ca.gov. I've done that. I haven't received an answer. I guess we could keep on bombarding them and see if they might maybe have time to answer, right? There is a resource and referral that is trying to help providers like us. So in Sacramento County, Child Action, you might want to give them a call to see if they can help you. I don't know how much they can help because it's a liability issue, right? If they tell you what to do, they can be liable for it. But if they're just, say, watch out for this, like we are, we're just saying, watch out for this. We are not expert grant writers. We're just letting you know our thoughts. And so that's not legal advice. It's just things that we're thinking about. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact either Tessie or I. We look forward to talking with you more about this subject. And we hope you all have a great evening and good luck with that grant.